One day our mom opened up the cookie jar and she didn't like what she saw. She called us all into the kitchen to have a family meeting. "What's in this jar?" Mom asked, holding it up for us to see. "Is not food. It is trash." We all crowded around the counter to get a closer look. Inside the jar were some old bits of broccoli, a crouton, a dried pea, a couple of baby carrots, and something that looked like an ancient piece of cheese. This was disgusting. But what was worse was that someone had been eating these things and then putting the scraps back into the cookie jar. "Who did this?" Mom asked. We all looked at each other. None of us had done it. I knew that if any of my brothers had put those things in the jar, they would be snickering right now. But they weren't. So it wasn't one of them. It must have been Dad. Dad never ate vegetables, but he loved cookies. In fact, he could eat a whole sleeve of oatmeal raisin cookies in one sitting. That man had an insatiable craving for cookies. I remember the first time I ever saw him. He was holding a plate of chocolate chip cookies in one hand and a glass of milk in the other. He took a big bite out of a cookie and then drank some milk. And then he did it again. The way he ate those cookies was so impressive that I stopped whatever it was I was doing and just watched him for a while. He was so focused on the cookies, oblivious to the world around him. I was only 7 years old at the time, but I could tell that those cookies meant more to him than anything else in the world. If you want to know more about that, you'll have to watch my other videos because this isn't about that. It's about me and my brothers. As I said before, this jar of cookies wasn't filled with food. It was filled with trash. And we needed to do something about it. Now, some people might say, well, just throw the jar away and get a new one. But that's not the kind of people we are. We wanted to keep the jar. It was an heirloom after all. Plus, we didn't want to waste it. We wanted to reuse it. That's why I came up with a plan. I told my brothers that we needed to replace the jar's contents with actual food. They liked the idea, but they also had some suggestions. They wanted to know what kind of food we should put in there. Should it be meat? Should it be fruit? What if we put both in there? We thought about it for a while and then agreed that we should put candy in there. That way, whoever was eating from the cookie jar would be getting a nice little surprise. And we all love candy. But there was a problem. Our parents kept their stash of candy in a locked container in the pantry. I was too young to reach it, and my brothers couldn't pick the locks yet. So we needed to find another source of candy. Luckily, we found one. In the basement, in a large plastic tub, we stored all of the Halloween candy that we didn't want to eat. It was mostly full of fun-sized candy bars. My brothers and I split up the task of transferring the candy to the cookie jar. It was hard work, but somebody had to do it. After we finished filling the cookie jar, we stood back and admired our handiwork. It was perfect. Now, whenever someone opened up the jar, they'd be greeted by a delightful mix of chocolate, caramel, peanuts, and sugar. No more mystery meat. It was a few weeks later when Mom went to grab a cookie from the jar. She reached inside, grabbed a handful of candy and ate it. Then she looked at the jar and smiled. She took another handful and then put it back. She opened the fridge and poured herself a glass of milk. She took a couple of bites and then closed the jar. I don't know how long she stood there eating candy and drinking milk, but it must have been a while because Dad came downstairs and joined her. He poured himself a glass of milk and took a handful of candy from the jar. Then he started eating the candy and drinking the milk. And then he did it again. My brothers and I stood at the top of the stairs watching them. We didn't say anything. We didn't need to. We knew what we had done. One day, though, Mom came down the stairs and caught us looking at her. "What are you guys doing?" she asked. "Nothing," I replied, but she didn't believe me. "You're staring at us," she said. "Why are you staring at us?" I started, but my brother interrupted me. "We were just wondering," he said, "if we could have some of that candy." Mom and Dad looked at each other. Then they looked back at us. "Why would you want that candy?" Mom asked. "It's disgusting," Dad said. "You know what's in there, right?" "Yeah," I replied, "but we still want it." Dad shook his head. "You kids are unbelievable," he said. "Why would you want that candy? It's gross." "Because," I said, "it's candy." Dad gave us a look. "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." Then he walked over to the cookie jar and picked it up. He walked over to the sink, filled it with water, put the lid on and shook it. Then he opened the jar and took out a handful of candy. He looked at it for a moment, then started eating it. We stared at him in disbelief. Why was he eating the candy? Wasn't he disgusted by it? Did he not know what was in the jar? Maybe he did know what was in the jar and he didn't care. After all, this was the same guy who dipped cookies in milk. Maybe he wasn't as disgusted by the candy as he pretended to be. Maybe he was just acting to make us feel bad. Whatever the reason, Dad continued to eat the candy and drink the milk. And it made us wonder, will he finish it all? Will he eat every single piece of candy in the jar? I think the answer is yes. We never told Dad that we filled the jar with candy. He never asked us either. One day we found him on the floor next to the jar, surrounded by candy wrappers. He was asleep. I guess he ate too much candy and fell asleep. My brothers and I carried him upstairs and put him in bed. Then we went back downstairs to clean up the mess. There was candy everywhere. It was on the floor, on the table, on the chairs. It was even in the couch. We spent hours cleaning up the mess, but we didn't mind. We were happy to do it. When we finally finished, the jar was empty. Every last piece of candy was gone. We stood there looking at the jar. We didn't know what to do with it now. It was empty. Should we fill it with something else? One of my brothers asked. Like what? I replied. Vegetables, he said. Yeah, I said. Or maybe, my other brother suggested, we could fill it with toys. Yeah, I said. Or maybe, I said, we could fill it with rocks. Yeah, they said, that would be cool. And that's what we did. We filled the jar with rocks. And now whenever someone opens it, they get a nice little surprise. A handful of rocks.